Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. Today, I'd like to discuss LNT, or Leave No Trace, principles. Anyone that goes hiking, camping, backpacking has probably heard of these principles, or if you're new and you haven't, you may have come across them and not know entirely what LNT, or Leave No Trace, principles are about. But anyone that goes out in the woods, on a park, or on a trail, or a campsite, sooner or later will run across a reference made to leave no trace. And if you don't know what these principles are, or it's been a while and you need a refresher, stay tuned. The next principle, the sixth principle, is respect wildlife. So this means, not impacting or adversely impacting wildlife, respecting their, I guess this is their home and we're guests in it. So respecting the fact that they need to come and go, don't scare them, don't startle them, don't try to catch them or touch them or pet them, don't feed them, don't put out food to get a good shot of them, don't approach them. Remember, they're wild, we want them to stay that way. Except for the one exception, which is that snake. And that wasn't me, but a group I was with. I generally don't impact wildlife in any way, shape, or form. I respect them, and especially if it's snakes, I'm leaving them alone. I'll take a picture of them, I'll make noise, but I'm not going to impact them. Some of the odder points of this is respecting wildlife to the point of where you pitch and set up your tent and your camp. Recognize that you shouldn't camp right next to water, because if you're there, that means the animals might not go there because you're blocking the way for them to get water and they're staying away from you. And that means they don't get to drink that day, if that's true, or they're coming through your campsite, which is probably not going to make you too happy. So one of the odder points of this principle is, picking your campsite in relation to thinking of, like if you see a game trail, you're not going to camp right on the game trail because you don't want animals coming through your campsite. But it's also to respect their use of their trail so that they can come and go without being impacted by your presence in the woods. And this is a part that most people generally don't think or consider. And I admit that I generally don't think and consider of animals coming to a watering hole. I'm thinking of me getting a good spot or me being able to get water, not of an animal. And a lot of the things I previously discussed when it says, respecting wildlife, that means like throwing food or throwing away wasted food, or food you're not going to eat, burying your toilet paper. All these things come in or overlap into respecting wildlife. Because if you throw food out, obviously they're going to come to feed, or it could adversely affect them. So you want to try to avoid doing that. So like I said, some of these principles overlap a lot. Like planning properly also has to do with camping on surfaces, using a campfire. So you can see that they overlap a lot. Some people will even interpret this as tying a rope or a line on a tree as not respecting wildlife. And I tend to disagree with this. I think this is a very extreme view. I don't believe that if I tie a string around a tree, I'm negatively impacting, the tree or wildlife. I don't think that throwing my bear bag up into a tree and securing it is doing great harm to the tree or to the wildlife in the area. I think a much greater harm would be a bear getting my food. So now I have a problem. But more importantly, for the future, the bear begins to recognize me or other hikers as a source of food and comes back more to where people are hiking. So I think the minimal damage that might be made to a tree with a line going over a branch or tying a hammock to it, if you're using it properly, you're not making any impact. But I guess a guy line could leave a mark on a tree. I'm not nailing things into a tree. I'm usually just tying it temporarily to secure my food bag. And I don't think that makes a very big impact. And I still think that is a lesser impact than any harm that can come from a bear getting my food. So that's an acceptable impact on my book. I don't know how you feel about it. And the last principle is really a very broad and a catch-all. It's be considerate of other visitors. And if you're following good practices, I think you are being considerate to other people. It means when you're hiking, don't stop in the middle of the trail if people are trying to walk through, walk to the side. Don't have your phone on or your music playing. Not everyone, I know your music is great, and we all think we have great taste in music, but even if I do like your music, I may not want to hear it. People go out in the woods to hear and see nature. If you're making a lot of noise, yelling and screaming, and I understand there's part of that is walking along, singing a song, maybe having fun, and I recognize that at the same time. But if you want to listen to music, put headphones on, put ear pods in or earbuds so that you can hear the music, but everyone around you doesn't have to. And I've seen this many, many times on the trail with people have music playing, and I hear them coming from a while off, and I think it does distract. Even if they have great taste in music, I may not want to hear that music there. I go out in the woods to see nature, and the music generally scares off wildlife. So I'm not going to see any wildlife. Maybe that's their aim, I don't know. But I agree that we need to be more considerate. And that includes, a lot of the other things we've discussed is where you put your camp, making a fire, not leaving trash out, going to the bathroom in proper places, burying your toilet paper correctly so that I don't see it when I get there. Nothing looks worse than going somewhere and you see garbage or toilet paper strewn outside the campsite. Makes you not want to stay there. It's a shame that we're the ones that are doing the damage. When I walk on a trail and I'm 5 miles into the trail and I see a set of batteries thrown on the side of the trail or a beer can, that's, okay, maybe that's not a regular hiker that goes all the time, but someone had to carry that in there. It didn't end up there, randomly. Someone purposely had to carry it out onto the trail, use it, and then decided to throw it out there. Now, I admit I've lost things. Occasionally you'll find things on the trail. People leave trekking poles all the time. They may drop a hat, a scarf, a glove, or things, a water bottle. I've done those things too. I've lost a water bottle. Okay, but they're not intentional. And it's not on the scale of a set of batteries generally doesn't get thrown down a cliff or down an embankment by accident. And neither does a can. That to me, those objects were purposely put there. And those are the things that we should strive not to do. A thing I commonly see is controlling pets. I routinely come across pets that are off leash. And I know I'm a dog owner and I love dogs and I like seeing them out on the trail. But when your dog comes charging at me, some of them even aggressively, I don't know your dog doesn't know me. Your dog needs to be on a leash. Those are the rules, but it's also for safety of the dog and for me. How do I know what that dog's going to do? If I do something and I go to protect myself because your dog just wants to sniff me, how would I know whether that dog has good or bad intentions? And some people are frightened by these animals the way they come up. And you should control your animal. It's your responsibility. The dog is just being a dog. We know better. Even if your dog is very friendly, bringing it into a shelter or around other people, unless it's very well acclimated to other people, should not happen. Because some dogs tend to jump on people or climb on top of them or get in people's gear. And that may be off-putting to several people. If you want to smoke on the trail, do it away from other people, whether it's cigarettes or something else. Don't assume that everybody else enjoys what you're doing. Have consideration for your fellow hiker. You want to do that activity, fine, do that. But don't do it where it impacts other people. Remember that downhill hikers have the right of way over uphill hikers. Hikers need to be more courteous to each other. If I'm on a trail and it's supposed to be hiking only, I shouldn't see a bike on there. I shouldn't have to worry about being struck by a bike going downhill, which is traveling very fast when I'm trying to hike. They just don't go together. The same way that I shouldn't be hiking on a bicycle path and get in the way of a bike rider. If a guy is mountain biking, he doesn't expect to see me slowly moving along at 2 to 3 miles an hour in his path and have to make an adjustment or possibly strike a tree over trying to avoid it hitting me, I'm in the wrong place. For the same reason, a mountain biker shouldn't be on a hiking-only trail. But I frequently see that as well. Some of the aspects of this principle that is quoted is like use natural colors, so you don't ruin the experience out in the woods. I tend to disagree with this. I don't think that me wearing a brightly colored fluorescent green shirt takes away from someone's enjoyment of the trail. I don't think that my brightly colored tent takes away from someone's enjoyment of the trail. In fact, sometimes you want to wear something bright so people can make you out, so you don't get shot by some hunter. So I think that is taking things a bit too extreme again. But it is the principle, and there's nothing wrong with considering it. However, I don't think that people should really worry about what color clothes they wear and what tents they have, because I don't think that's really anything that really impacts someone's enjoyment of the trail, because I have a fluorescent orange pack and that might offend somebody. I think they're going to have to get over that. I think that's taking things a little too far. Obviously, another thing that comes up frequently is nighttime. You have people that arrive at campsites later, they make noise, they may be talking, or they decide to stay up late when most hikers go to bed at hiker midnight, which is whenever the sun goes down, usually 8, 9 o'clock sometimes, because hikers want to get up early and make mileage, so they want to sleep, they're tired, and someone partying till 11 or 12 o'clock, making noise, maybe playing music, or just talking loudly is a problem. I don't consider snoring to be inconsiderate. However, I think if you know that you're an exceptionally loud snorer, or you know that you're a snorer, you should warn some people around it. People can't prevent snoring. However, I have been with some people that literally blew me away with how loud their snoring was. One time I remember in Scouts, several Scouts woke up in the middle of the night thinking there was an animal in the campsite when it was one of the adults that snores. And I got a good laugh out of it. And I still remember that vividly, how scared these children were because they thought an animal was coming to get them. But it turned out to be one of the adult leaders, and they're snoring. And I've gone camping with someone that told me they were really loud, and they were mandated by the other hikers to camp a certain distance away from the group. And I can honestly say that I didn't think it was really as loud when they told me. I'm like, how could someone snore that loud? But I gotta say, I have never heard someone that snores any louder than this person. And even being a significant distance away from the group, at night, I could still hear him snore over everybody else on the campground. And this was at a gathering of probably about 200 to 300 scouts. So there are some very loud snorers out there. Hence the recommendation to always bring earplugs. And it's a good idea to either bring earplugs or some sort of headphones that if it gets really bad at night, you can put some either music on or some podcast or nowadays, or just plug your ears so you don't have to listen to someone snoring. Another thing that frequently comes up is what people from the military will understand is flashlight discipline. You should not be shining your flashlight in people's faces. If you want to see them, shine it down on the ground or higher up, but don't shine it in their face. You ruin their night vision, and it's also rude and blinding. It's not necessary. If you're searching for something at night, try also dimming your light or using a red light so that you don't blind people, and making noise while searching for something. Even if you arrive late at camp, obviously you have to set up. I understand you're going to make some noise, but the yelling and the shouting can be minimized, and certainly shining your flashlight across everybody's tent at night can be minimized as well. And these are just some of the courteous things that you can do, and the most common things that other hikers complain about when talking about things that other hikers do that annoy them. And these things I've just discussed now are the Leave No Trace principles. And they're good goals to aspire to. And like I said, I think I pretty much do most of them. I've got some room to grow. Some of them I don't think are as manageable as others. My biggest thing would probably be not cooking in the campsite. Other than that, I think I pretty much follow these pretty well. I try to be courteous. I think of my other hikers. I don't think I make extra noise. I don't listen to music. And I don't shine my light usually in other people's faces, unless I intend to do it intentionally. So other than that, you now have reviewed the leave no trace principles. Some of the generalities of them and how they overlap with each other is pretty obvious. And, this is a good refresher for someone that hasn't reviewed them in a while or has never learned them. And there are several sites. Leave No Trace has a site as well. And there are a couple of good videos out there as well. I think it's called Don't Be That Guy. And they're short. They're like 2-3 minute, maybe 5-minute videos. I haven't watched them all. I watched some of them. There's a series of them. They came out, I think, like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago, called Don't Be That Guy, that they have out there. And they're a little comical, extreme, but comical. And they discuss the principles in a comedic way. So I would recommend seeking those out. You can probably find those on the internet or maybe do a search on YouTube. So the idea being that if you follow these principles, you, other hikers, and future generations can all enjoy the trails and the outdoors. Now, that being said, I believe these are goals to aspire to, but not hard and fast rules in all cases. Some of them I think are pretty black and white. Some of them have some shades of gray in them. And I still think that people that are using the trail on a regular basis are not the huge violators of this. Certain aspects probably, but generally it's the new hikers, the new backpackers and campers that are generally breaking the rules. Or they went camping or hiking or backpacking with someone that thinks they know the rules or shows them the way. Here, I'll show you how you do this. And they do things wrong. And now that person learns to do things the wrong way. I've gone camping with other people. When you go camping with other people, you kind of have to take a back seat sometimes and be respectful. You can guide some people of how to do things, but in the end, they each have their own free will and make their own decision. And you saw on some of my trips some behavior that I feel would not be done by me, but being respectful to them and who they are, I don't always say anything. Carving their name in a tree is something that you wouldn't want to see. But I know it happens, and I see it on the trail when I go hiking and camping. It's usually young people, but it's not always young people. Everybody has a stake in this, and unfortunately there are violators across all groups. We can all do something that seems like a good idea at the time, but in hindsight probably wasn't the best thing to do. So I've already discussed my disdain for trash on the trail, and unfortunately it is very, very common, and it is disheartening to see trash thrown out, many miles from a trailhead. And frequently I will carry out some garbage, but honestly, admit that I don't pick up a lot of extra garbage and carry it out. I just don't do that. I'll pick up some little things, but I'm not about to carry several extra items or pounds or ounces even to take out the trash. And that's something I probably should work on more in the future about giving back to the trail. If I know I'm close to the end and I do see trash, I generally try to pick it up. But I almost always come back with some trash that's not mine. And I can't think of one trail that I've gone on that I haven't brought out garbage that didn't belong to me. Something I picked up along the way. So that's going to wrap up Leave No Trace or LNT principles. As I mentioned, you can view more online. The ATC or Appalachian Trail Conservancy have those videos of Don't Be That Guy. You can seek them on their website, I believe, or a YouTube search should bring them up. I covered the Leave No Trace principles in a very brief manner, but I think I covered them enough that you get the idea. Another resource can be REI, which also has a website which lists all the Leave No Trace principles and guidelines that you should follow while camping. So I hope you enjoy this. While I do not wish to be political in any way, shape, or form on this channel, I just hope that we're all taking care of ourselves and doing the right thing and being safe. With everything that's going on in the world today, with COVID-19 and other behaviors, I hope that very shortly, as parks and trails are all scheduled to open up, that we can get back out there and enjoy nature. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, please leave a comment below. Always like hearing from people. I appreciate all the comments and emails that I get. Feel free to email me, or if you like what I'm doing, give a thumbs up or subscribe. to the channel. As always, I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch these videos. It amazes me the comments that I get and the feedback that I get, and I appreciate it all. Take care of yourself. Till we meet again. If you like what I'm doing on this trail,